My name is Stacy, and I am an ambassador with Mission 22. I chose to join Mission 22 because my brother, Brett Andrew Madonna, became one of the 22 November 18th, 1992, after he came home from serving in the United States Navy. We grew up in a large Italian family, and my grandfather was very difficult. They grew up on a farm, and education really wasn't valued at that time. It was work the farm to make money so we can survive. So Brett saw the way our father handled things, which was using violence and to try and get his way, who then our father saw his father use violence to get his way. So violence then became Brett's, tool to get through whatever it is he was getting through and wanted to get results. Brett was my protector. When we would hear our parents fighting at night, I would come down into the hall and he would always come and grab me. And we would either end up at a close relative's house because they all lived relatively close by. But Brett also had a hair trigger temper as well, so he could get just as mad about stuff and be destructive. So I think he learned from a really early age, unfortunately, that, if you don't get your way, maybe you just beat somebody into submission to get what you want. There was an instance when Brett was in high school. He had this beautiful 68 Chevelle. It was gorgeous. It was white with, black vinyl top and black stripes on the hood, and it was his pride and joy. And again, he was very destructively drinking and got into a really serious car accident one night on the way home. And so much so that the police weren't really sure that Brett's story was what really happened, because the way the vehicle had hit a tree head on. So could that have been an earlier attempt at suicide? I don't really know. I was sitting at the kitchen table doing my homework, and again, Brett was a shyster. He'd come in and be like bugging me or poking at me. And I was just like, oh, Brett, leave me alone. Kind of swatting at him, I'm trying to focus on my work. And one of my swats must have connected or something, because the next thing I know is he ripped me out of the chair I was in, and he had me pinned up against the wall by my throat. And his eyes, I remember he's looking right in my eyes, and he was gone. He wasn't there. And it felt like an eternity. I know it wasn't an eternity. It was probably 10 seconds at most, if that. But it felt like forever. And the minute he came back, I remember the look on his face. And he jolted back, and he just kind of looked at me, and he was startled. And then immediately it was anger. It was, why'd you make me do that? Why'd you make me do that? To have, this background growing up of anger and violence, and then coupled with an educational or learning disability, and then kind of given an ultimatum to, be a man and go into the service. And then, come home from that, from whatever it is that he saw there, could that have been a perfect storm for him that led to the ultimate destruction of his life? And that's very possible. It very well could have. Brett learned from a young age to use violence to get his way and to use it to cope and get the things that he wanted, and led to his ultimate destruction. We grew up in a household full of guns. My aunts, uncles, my dad, Brett, they all hunted. So we had all kinds of firearms and ammunition. It was never something I wanted to get into. But, you know, the guns were all in a cabinet in my dad's room, and, you know, they were locked up. We grew up in a simpler time. And, you know, the gun cabinet had just a lock and key that was, you know, there. You know, my dad kept his keys on him, but B's, you know, his firearm was in his room. So, like I said, I don't think there was a lock there, or there wasn't a gun safe there. You know, we were taught to respect firearms, and you know, I was taught, even though I didn't like them, like how you handle them and how you clean them, and you know, to be respectful of them because they could be so destructive. The night that Brett died, you could tell by the scene left behind. Unfortunately, I got to see the scene that was left behind. You could tell he was angry. He unfortunately had bought a .357 from an uncle of mine who has regrettably blamed himself ever since. So, not that I would ever blame him, but as soon as he got home, he had gotten this .357 and just to have. And that was the weapon that was used. And you could just see that the guns were locked up, and obviously it was his gun, so he had access to it. But the cabinet that had the ammunition in was locked, and my dad was the one that had the key, who had left the house to go get a haircut that night, luckily. And when he came home, he found Brett. And the drawer that had the ammunition was ripped out of the gun cabinet. The bullets, there was one missing. So it was very intentional of what he wanted to do and accomplished. The carnage that my family experienced was terrible. My mom really super struggled. She couldn't get out of bed for days. Understandably, I can't even imagine losing a child, let alone, you know, in this fashion. As a 17-year-old kid in high school, senior year, supposed to be the best year of your life, you know, and there I am to deal with, you know, not just a loss, but suicide, which, you know, is still looked at as taboo, or, you know, it looks at like, what's wrong with your family, you know, why'd they do that, like, so you know, and it was like a pariah almost, like, you know, don't talk to her because, you know, her brother shot himself, or it's just, you know, it was devastating. Brett used a permanent solution to a temporary problem. There's a lot of tears, a lot of, you know, what could I have done differently to stop this? Brett, what happened that you felt you had no other option but to destroy yourself and destroy our family? Destroy the future and hopes and dreams of, you know, my mom seeing grandchildren. Our dad every day blaming himself. This path of destruction just devastated so many people. For those of you contemplating suicide, get help. All you had to do, B, was ask for help. That's all I had to do. the more good that I do and I can help other people, it will be kind of, contagious and infectious. And that helps me feel better about myself. It eases that hole in my heart I carry around. So for 30 plus years, it's been there. Survivor's guilt. It sucks. Go to someone that you love and trust. Let them know your thoughts. It's a temporary situation. And there can be a different choice. There's a different path in taking that permanent solution.